The house breathed differently when she was alone. Elena pressed her palm against the nursery wall, pale yellow, freshly painted 3 weeks ago, and felt the contractions roll through her abdomen like thunder across a prairie. Her wedding ring caught the afternoon light, throwing fractured rainbows across the empty crib. The phone on the nightstand displayed a photo. Her husband James grinning beneath a turquoise Maldivian sky, his arm around someone whose face she'd studied for 47 minutes that morning. A puddle was forming beneath her feet, amniotic fluid soaking into the Brazilian cherry hardwood they'd selected together on a Saturday that now felt like archaeological history. The baby's room smelled of fresh paint and betrayal, two scents that would forever be married in her memory. But what caught her breath wasn't the pain radiating from her pelvis, it was the realization that she'd been preparing this room for a child who would never know his father lived here. Was this the moment her marriage ended, or had it died months ago while she was too pregnant to notice? Chapter 1. The Labor Ward Mirror. The hospital bathroom mirror reflected a woman Elena barely recognized. She'd driven herself to St. Catherine's Medical Center, one hand on the wheel and one pressed against her contracting abdomen, through traffic that seemed designed by a cosmic sadist. The emergency room staff had moved with practiced efficiency once they saw her condition, 38 weeks pregnant, water broken, contractions 7 minutes apart, but their eyes held questions they were professionally trained not to ask. Where was her husband? Her mother? Anyone? Elena had smiled through the intake forms, her handwriting deteriorating with each contraction, and lied with a clarity that surprised her. He's on a business trip, flying back now. Should be here soon. The lies came easier than she'd expected. She studied her reflection between contractions. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail she'd managed while driving. Mascara from that morning's application still somehow intact beneath eyes that hadn't slept properly in 6 days. 6 days since she'd found the credit card statement in the recycling bin. James always recycled, so conscientious about the planet-showing charges that told a story more vivid than any novel. 2 first-class tickets to Maldives, reservations at the Soneva Fushi Resort, charges at restaurants with names like Underwater Dining Experience and Sunset Pavilion. The contraction hit her like a truck, and Elena gripped the sink's porcelain edge hard enough to crack a nail. He's watching the sunset with her while I'm watching my body tear itself apart. When it passed, she returned to the hospital bed where a nurse named Patricia was adjusting monitors. Patricia had kind eyes and hands that moved with the gentleness of someone who de-delivered thousands of babies and witnessed every possible variation of human drama. She didn't ask about the missing husband again. Perhaps she'd seen this particular story before. "You're doing beautifully," Patricia said, checking the fetal monitor. "Baby's heartbeat is strong. You're at 5 centimeters. Still want to wait on the epidural?" Elena nodded. She wanted to feel everything. Every contraction, every moment of this transformation. Because while James was probably swimming in crystal-clear water 10,000 miles away, she was becoming someone new, a mother, yes, but also something else. Something harder. The pain was clarifying, burning away whatever soft, trusting version of herself had existed 6 days ago. Her phone buzzed. Another photo. James on a yacht, the ocean behind him impossibly blue. The caption read, "Wish you were here, darling. Meetings are exhausting, but the views make up for it. Love you both. Kiss the belly for me." Elena felt something inside her snap, not physically, though another contraction was building, but psychologically. The cord connecting her to their shared life, fraying for months without her noticing, finally severed. She picked up the phone and did something she'd never done before. She blocked his number. "Everything okay?" Patricia asked, noticing Elena's expression. "Better than okay," Elena said, and meant it. "Let's have this baby." Chapter 2. The Mathematics of Betrayal. The numbers told a story more honest than any words James had spoken in 6 months. Between contractions now 4 minutes apart, each one a tidal wave of sensation, Elena had done what she always did when the world stopped making sense. She analyzed data. Her laptop sat beside her hospital bed, password protected and containing 6 months of investigation she hadn't consciously known she was conducting. Credit card statements downloaded monthly out of habit. Phone bills she'd reviewed for their shared family plan. Calendar notifications from his work email that synced to their shared iPad. The scale of the deception was almost admirable in its complexity. Transaction 1. May 14th, $847 charged to Le Petit Maison, an intimate French restaurant in Dubai. They'd never been to Dubai together. When she'd asked about his trip that week, he'd said he'd eaten room service every night because of jet lag. Transaction 2, June 3, $2,340 for a weekend at the Hamptons Beachfront Resort. The same weekend, he'd told her he was at a mandatory team-building retreat that families were uninvited to. She'd been 28 weeks pregnant, experiencing morning sickness that lasted all day, eating crackers alone in their kitchen. Transaction 3, July 19, $15,847 for 2 first-class tickets to the Maldives, departing August 2nd. The credit card statement had arrived August 8th, the day before her due date. He'd planned this. Planned to be gone during the most important week of their lives. Transaction 4, August 9th, $890 for a couple's spa treatment at the resort. The timestamp, 2:47 p.m. The same day her due date passed quietly, spent in their empty house, calling his phone every hour and getting voicemail. The customer you are trying to reach is out of service area. Transaction 5, August 11th, $1,240 for an underwater restaurant experience for 2. Today's date. While she was measuring cervical dilation, he was measuring the depth of his selfishness. Another contraction crested and Elena gripped the bed rails. Patricia appeared beside her with ice chips, and that particular look nurses developed compassion mixed with professional neutrality. 7 centimeters, Patricia announced after checking. Moving faster now. Won't be long. How many babies have you delivered? Elena asked, breathing through the pain. Lost count after 3,000, Patricia said. Been doing this 23 years. How many fathers missed it? Patricia's pause was answer enough. Then, more than you'd think. Fewer than there used to be. The ones who miss it usually regret it forever. She adjusted Elena's pillow. Though I've learned that sometimes the people who show up aren't the ones you expected, and that can be its own kind of blessing. Elena understood what she wasn't saying. You'll survive this. Women have survived worse. But Elena didn't want to just survive. She wanted to disappear so completely that when James finally returned, sunburned and guilty and full of excuses he defined only absence, she could vanish tomorrow if she wanted to. The thought was intoxicating. I need to push, Elena said suddenly, surprised by the urgency. Patricia checked again, her expression shifting to active focus. 10 centimeters. You're ready. Let's bring your baby into the world. Our baby, Elena thought. No, my baby. Mine alone now. Chapter 3. What birth takes away the delivery room became the entire universe, compressed into moments of effort and animal sound. Elena had read 17 books about childbirth, attended 8 weeks of classes with James, who checked his phone during 5 of the 8 sessions, and watched countless videos. None of it prepared her for the reality, the sensation of her body opening like a door she couldn't close. The burning ring of pressure, Patricia's voice cutting through the chaos. Good, another push. You're doing this perfectly, and the strange, out-of-body awareness that she was simultaneously experiencing the most primal human act and the most civilized betrayal. Women had been doing this for 200,000 years of human evolution. But how many had done it while their husbands vacationed with mistresses? She pushed, and the pain became absolute. Not the building contractions, but something immediate and totalizing. Patricia's hands were there, guiding, and another nurse had appeared, and Dr. Okonkwo, the on-call obstetrician, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair, had materialized with that particular calm that medical professionals deployed during controlled crises. Heads crowning, Dr. Okonkwo said. One more big push, Elena. Your baby's almost here. Elena bore down with every muscle, every fiber of anger and hurt and determination. She pushed out a baby, yes, but also a marriage. Pushed out the woman who'd believed in forever. Pushed out the version of herself who'd spent 3 years building a life with a man who bought his mistress a $4,200 necklace. Transaction 6. July 2nd, while telling Elena they should be conservative about the nursery budget. The baby emerged in a rush of fluid and sensation, and the world stopped. Complete silence. 1 second, 2 seconds, then a cry. Not a whimper, but a full-throated announcement of existence. It's a boy, Patricia said, her voice suddenly warm. A beautiful, healthy boy. They placed him on Elena's chest. This impossibly small creature with dark hair slicked against his skull and eyes that couldn't quite focus but seemed to be searching for her. His cry quieted the moment he felt her skin. 10 fingers, 10 toes, perfect in every measurable way. The nurses were doing things, cutting the cord, checking reflexes. assessing APGAR scores, but Elena was somewhere else. Somewhere beyond the mathematics of betrayal and the geography of abandonment. "Hi," she whispered to him. "Hi, baby. I'm your mom." "I've got you." And she did. She had him completely, without condition or reservation. The love was instant and terrifying, a biological imperative that rewired her brain in seconds. This was her son. Hers to protect, hers to raise, hers to love with the ferocity of every mother who ever stood between her child and the world's capacity for harm. James's face appeared in her mind, not the version from the photos, smiling in paradise, but the version from their wedding day. How he'd cried when she walked down the aisle. How he'd whispered, "I'll love you forever," during their first dance. How she'd believed him with every cell in her body. Had that man ever existed? Or had she invented him, projecting her hopes onto someone who'd always been capable of this? "Have you chosen a name?" Dr. Okonkwo asked, completing her examination. Elena looked down at her son. They discussed names for months. James liked traditional names, family names. Michael, after his grandfather. Thomas, after his father. Every conversation had been negotiation, compromise, the tiny surrenders of shared life. "Alexander," Elena said. It was her grandfather's name, a man who'd fled Ukraine with nothing but his wife and daughter, who'd built a life through sheer will. "Alexander Leon. Leon for courage." "It's perfect," Patricia said. For the next hour, they were in what the books called the golden hour, skin-to-skin contact. The baby finding her breast and latching with surprising determination. The nurses completing paperwork and monitoring vitals. Elena was aware of her phone buzzing periodically in her purse, probably her mother, whom she texted hours ago. "In labor. I'm fine. We'll call when he's here." But she ignored it. Let the world wait. Let James land at JFK tomorrow morning, expecting to come home to his pregnant wife and spin whatever story he prepared. Let him find the empty house, the note she'd already written in her mind. This hour belonged to her and Alexander alone. "You lost about average blood volume," Dr. Okonkwo said, reviewing her chart. "Everything looks good. We'll monitor you for a few hours, but you should be able to go home tomorrow afternoon." "Is someone picking you up?" "My mother," Elena said automatically. Another lie. But she'd call her mother soon, and her mother would probably be furious Elena hadn't called earlier, and would ask about James. Elena would tell her the truth, that she'd had enough, that some things couldn't be forgiven, that she was leaving. Her mother would understand. Her mother had left Elena's father when Elena was 7, after discovering his second family in another state. Elena had thought her situation was different, better. James wasn't her father. Their love was real. How many women had thought the same thing? Chapter 4. The Scale of Ordinary Dissolution. A Note on the Mathematics of Modern Infidelity. According to the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy, approximately 15% of wives and 25% of husbands report having engaged in extramarital affairs. However, when emotional affairs are included, the numbers rise to 35% and 45% respectively. The Institute for Family Studies reports that the median duration of an affair is 6 months before discovery, though 23% continue for over 2 years. In cases where the affair occurs during pregnancy, the likelihood of divorce within 2 years increases to 78%, compared to 42% for affairs occurring at other life stages. Financial infidelity, the concealment of spending from a partner, occurs in 43% of relationships, according to the National Endowment for Financial Education. The psychological impact of betrayal during pregnancy is particularly severe. Research from the Journal of Reproductive Psychology indicates that women who experience partner abandonment or infidelity during pregnancy show elevated cortisol levels comparable to PTSD patients 340% above baseline, with 61% meeting diagnostic criteria for major depressive disorder within 6 months postpartum. However, 73% of these women report significant personal growth within 2 years, and 84% describe the experience as ultimately liberating in retrospective interviews. The Maldives receives approximately 1.7 million tourists annually, with couples accounting for 83% of visitors. The average cost of a week-long luxury vacation is $12,000 per person. The Sonamafushi Resort, a 5-star property, averages $2,800 per night, with most guests staying 5 to 7 nights. Statistical analysis of resort booking patterns shows that 31% of male guests traveling with female companions who are and their wives book during late summer months, coinciding with partners' late-stage pregnancies or early postpartum periods. These are the numbers. Behind each percentage, a story. Behind each statistic, a woman like Elena, making calculations in a hospital bed while her baby sleeps against her chest. Chapter 5. The first night changes everything. Alexander woke every 2 hours and Elena welcomed the exhaustion. Sleep would mean thinking, and thinking would mean planning, and planning would mean confronting tomorrow. Better to exist in this strange suspended present. The beeping monitors, the nurses checking vitals every 4 hours, the pale blue curtains separating her from the rest of the ward. Her room was on the 3rd floor, maternity wing, overlooking the hospital parking lot where her car sat with an empty infant car seat she de-installed herself last month. James had promised to help but had been too swamped at work. Another lie, she understood now. He'd been busy planning his escape. At 3 a.m., during Alexander's 3rd feeding, Patricia returned for the night shift. "You should try to sleep," she said gently. "Baby's healthy, you need rest." "I can't," Elena admitted. "My brain won't stop." Patricia pulled up a chair, moving with the easy violation of professional boundaries that comes from decades of witnessing human drama. "Want to talk about it?" And Elena found herself talking. Not crying, she'd discover later that the tears wouldn't come for weeks. As if her body had decided that crying was a luxury she couldn't afford, but talking in flat, factual sentences. The credit card statement. The 6 months of lies. The photos from paradise while she labored. The precise moment she'd blocked his number and felt something inside her crystallize into diamond-hard clarity. "I'm leaving," Elena said. "Not the take some space kind, the permanent kind. I'm going to disappear so completely he'll wonder if I ever existed." Patricia listened without judgment. When Elena finished, the nurse was quiet for a long moment. "Then, I divorced my husband after 21 years. He didn't cheat, just forgot how to see me. Became invisible in my own home. Leaving was the scariest thing I'd ever done." She smiled. "Also the best. It took me a year to find myself again, but when I did, I liked her better than the woman who'd stayed. Do you regret it?" "Every day for the first year. Never again after that." Patricia stood, checked Alexander's vitals. "You've got people who can help? My mother, my sister, friends." Elena paused. "And money, I've always earned more than him. Saved more. I'm not trapped financially. That's good. Some women are." Patricia moved toward the door, then stopped. "One more thing. You're going to feel guilty. Like you should have tried harder, should have seen the signs sooner, should have been enough to keep him faithful. Men who cheat during their wife's pregnancy? That's not about you. That's about them being fundamentally broken in a way you can't fix." After she left, Elena picked up her phone. Unblocked James's number long enough to see the messages that had accumulated. Just had the most amazing snorkeling experience. "Saw a sea turtle. You would have loved it. Thinking about you and the little guy. How's the belly today? Client dinner went late. This time zone is killing me. Love you. Only 2 more days until I'm home. Miss you both so much." The most recent sent 3 hours ago. "Leaving for the airport soon. Can't wait to see you. Has my son arrived yet? My son." Elena's fingers moved across the screen, typing and deleting several responses. Finally, she settled on, "He's here. He's perfect. And he's mine." She hit send, then blocked the number again. Outside her window, the city was beginning to wake. Streetlights flickered off as dawn approached. Somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, James was on a plane. Probably sleeping in business class, probably dreaming of his perfectly compartmentalized life. The dutiful wife at home. The exciting mistress in paradise. The child he could mold into his image of masculinity and success. He was going to land at JFK in 4 hours, take a cab to their brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, open the door with his key, and find... what, exactly? Elena's mind began working through the logistics. She couldn't leave yet. The hospital required 24 hours of observation. But tomorrow afternoon, when they discharged her, she could go home, grab the bags she'd already mentally packed, and go to her mother's house in Westchester. Or her sister's place in New Jersey. Or the thought stopped her. Why should she leave? The house was as much hers as his. More, actually, she'd made the down payment from her savings. Her salary covered the mortgage. In divorces, possession was 9/10 of the law. If anyone should leave, it was James. A better plan formed. Let him come home. Let him find her there with Alexander. Let him see exactly what he'd missed, what he'd sacrificed for his vacation. Let him experience the full weight of his choice before she told him what came next. Yes, that was better. More confrontational, riskier, but also more honest. Elena looked down at Alexander, sleeping in her arms with the total trust of the newly born. His face was peaceful, perfect. He deserved better than a father who chose an absence. Better than parents who stayed together for the kids, while resentment poisoned every interaction. He deserved a mother who was whole, even if that meant being alone. "I'm going to be enough," she whispered to him. "For both of us. I promise." It was a promise she'd spend the next decade learning how to keep. Chapter 6. The homecoming he didn't expect. Elena was sitting in the rocking chair when James opened the front door. She'd been discharged at 2 p.m., driven home by her mother, who arrived at the hospital that morning full of righteous fury and practical help, and spent the afternoon preparing the scene. Alexander was asleep in his bassinet beside her. The house was spotless because cleaning had given her something to do with the adrenaline. The credit card statement was on the coffee table, highlighted in yellow. Her mother had wanted to stay, had insisted, but Elena had sent her home. "I need to do this alone," she'd said. "Are you sure?" "That man doesn't deserve." "Mom, please, I'll call you tonight." Now at 6:47 p.m. she heard his key in the lock, heard him call out, "Honey, I'm home." "Sorry, I'm late. The flight was delayed and traffic was." He stopped when he saw her. James stood in the doorway of their living room, wheeling suitcase behind him. Tan from tropical sun, wearing a linen shirt she didn't recognize. He looked rested, happy, unburdened. He looked like a man returning from vacation, not from desertion. "Elena," he rushed forward. "Oh my God, his name is Alexander," Elena said quietly. "Alexander Leon. He was born yesterday at 7:23 p.m., 8 pounds, 4 ounces, 21 inches long. Completely healthy." James froze, processing. She watched his face cycle through confusion, realization, guilt, panic, the full spectrum of a man caught in the machinery of his own choices. "Yesterday? But I thought your due date was the 9th. "I would have been back by the 10th, Elena finished. "Yes, you planned it very carefully. 9 days in paradise, back before the baby arrived. Except babies don't follow schedules." She kept her voice level, conversational. "How was the Maldives?" The silence stretched. James's face had gone pale beneath the tan. "Elena, I can explain." "Don't," she held up one hand. "I don't want your explanation. I've had 24 hours to imagine every possible version, and none of them changed the basic facts. You chose to be 10,000 miles away during the most important week of our lives. You chose her over us. You chose a vacation over your son's birth. It wasn't like that. What was it like, James?" "Explain it to me." Elena's voice remained calm, which seemed to unnerve him more than shouting would have. "Explain how you charged $15,000 to a resort vacation for 2 while telling me we should be conservative about baby expenses. Explain the couple's spa treatment, the underwater restaurant, the yacht rental. Explain it in a way that makes you not the villain." He couldn't. She could see him trying, his mouth opening and closing, his hands gesturing uselessly. The confident, charismatic man she'd married, the man who could sell anything, convince anyone, charm his way through any situation, was speechless. "Her name is Veronica," Elena continued. "I hired a private investigator. Did you know that? 3 weeks ago, when the credit card statement arrived, I wanted to be wrong so badly. I told the investigator, please tell me I'm crazy. Tell me there's an innocent explanation. But there wasn't. She works at your firm. Junior account executive. 27 years old. You've been seeing her for 8 months. How did you... I'm a data analyst, James. It's literally my job to find patterns. And you were sloppy, careless. Like you wanted to be caught, or like you just didn't care enough to hide it properly." She gestured to the coffee table. 6 months of credit card statements. I've highlighted every relevant transaction. The cost of your affair itemized. Would you like to see? Alexander stirred in his bassinet, making the soft mewling sounds that preceded crying. Elena picked him up, cradled him against her chest. James stared at his son like he was witnessing a miracle and a judgment simultaneously. Can I hold him? No. The word landed like a slap. James flinched. Elena, please. He's my son too. I know I fucked up. I know this looks terrible, but I love you. I love him. We can fix this. I'll end things with Veronica. I'll do counseling, whatever you want. Just please, you can't fix this. Elena stood, still holding Alexander. You broke something that can't be repaired. I don't want your apologies or your promises. I want you to leave. Leave? This is my house too. Actually, it's more mine. I made the down payment. I pay 68% of the mortgage. But I'm not going to argue about property tonight. I'm going to tell you what happens next, and you're going to listen. She moved to the window, looking out at their quiet Brooklyn street. Brownstones lining the block, trees just beginning to turn with early autumn color. They'd chosen this neighborhood together, had imagined their child playing in Prospect Park, attending the good schools, growing up in this community. All of it was ash now. You have two choices, Elena said. Choice 1. You pack a bag tonight and leave. Stay with a friend. Get a hotel. I don't care. You give me space 3 months minimum while I figure out what I want. You pay child support based on your actual income, not some negotiated reduction. You see Alexander only when I approve it, supervised at first. You hire a lawyer, I hire a lawyer, and we handle this like adults. And choice 2? There is no choice 2, that's your only option. Because the alternative is that I make this ugly. I have documented evidence of financial infidelity, of abandonment during a medical emergency, of behavior that any family court judge would consider relevant to custody determinations. I have a timeline of your affair with a coworker, which could get very interesting at your firm when HR learns about it. I have resources you don't know about, and a level of anger you haven't seen yet. James's face was white. You wouldn't try me, Elena's voice was ice. I delivered our son alone. I drove myself to the hospital in active labor. I labored for 14 hours without you. I will never forgive you for that, James. Never. And I will absolutely destroy you in court if you make this difficult. The threat hung in the air. Alexander was fully awake now, looking up at Elena with unfocused eyes, his tiny hand wrapped around her finger. The weight of him in her arms felt like an anchor, and the wings simultaneously grounding her to this new reality while lifting her into someone she'd never been before. I need to feed him, Elena said. When I come downstairs in 30 minutes, I want you gone. Take whatever you need for a week. We'll arrange a time for you to collect the rest of your things. She walked past him toward the stairs, Alexander secure against her chest. Behind her, she heard James make a sound that might have been a sob or might have been a protest. She didn't turn around. In the nursery of the room they'd painted together, where she'd assembled the crib alone when James claimed his back hurt, where she'd imagined 1,000 tender family moments that would never exist, Elena settled into the rocking chair. Alexander latched immediately, hungry and determined. She stroked his soft hair and listened to the sounds from downstairs, drawers opening, footsteps heavy with defeat, the zipper of a suitcase. 20 minutes later, the front door closed. The house was silent. Elena released a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Her phone buzzed a text from her mother. How did it go? He's gone, Elena typed back. We're okay. Do you want me to come over? Tomorrow. Tonight I just need to be with Alexander. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. So proud. Elena set the phone aside. Outside the window, the sky was deepening from blue to purple, the first stars appearing. Alexander had fallen asleep mid-feeding, milk-drunk and peaceful. She held him and rocked, the chair creaking in rhythm, and felt the full weight of what she'd done settle over her. She'd ended her marriage, detonated the life they'd built, chosen the hardest possible path forward, and she felt relief. Overwhelming, crystalline relief, like she'd been holding her breath for 8 months and could finally exhale. Tomorrow would bring complications. Lawyers and custody arrangements and telling friends and family. Next week would bring the practical challenges of single parenthood. Next month would bring the divorce paperwork and the real estate negotiations and the division of lives that had been tangled together. But tonight, she and Alexander were alone in their house, and that was enough. Just you and me, buddy, she whispered. We're going to be okay. Better than okay. She believed it. In that moment, rocking in the gathering darkness, she absolutely believed it. Chapter 7. The Mathematics of Recovery, 3 weeks later. The divorce attorney's office smelled like leather and old wood, the kind of deliberately expensive scent meant to justify hourly rates that made Elena's stomach clench despite her savings. Catherine Reeves sat across from her 50-something, silver hair in a sharp bob, eyes that missed nothing, and reviewed the financial documents Elena had prepared with the obsessive thoroughness of someone who processed grief through spreadsheets. This is the most organized filing I've seen in 20 years of practice, Catherine said. Seriously. You should consider a career change. I like data, Elena said. Alexander was asleep in his car seat beside her chair, oblivious to the legal dismantling of his parents' union. Numbers don't lie. Well, these numbers tell quite a story. Catherine pulled up a document on her laptop. Let's walk through this. You're seeking primary physical custody with James having standard visitation every other weekend. 1 evening per week, holidays alternating. Given his abandonment during the birth and the documented affair, I don't anticipate much pushback from his attorney. He hired Ted Morrison. Catherine's eyebrow raised. Morrison? He's expensive and aggressive. Usually handles high net worth divorces where there's actual money to fight over. Interesting choice for your situation. James's father is paying for it. Called me last week, said I was ruining his son's life and denying him his parental rights. Elena's voice was flat. Didn't mention the Mistress or the Maldives. Just that I was being unreasonable. Family loyalty is selective. Catherine made a note. Morrison will push for 50-50 custody, they always do. But New York courts favor primary caregiver arrangements for infants, and you've been doing 100% of the caregiving. Plus, breastfeeding is a factor the judge will consider. They spent the next hour reviewing asset division, child support calculations, spousal maintenance, which Elena was waiving. She wanted nothing from James except his absence. The house, which Elena would keep, buying out James's minority equity stake, retirement accounts, the shared vehicle, James could have it. Elena was buying her own car. The numbers painted a picture of dissolution. Asset total, $547,000 in combined savings, investments, and equity. Elena's contribution, $389,000. James's, $158,000. The disparity was stark. Income differential. Elena earned $127,000 annually. James earned $93,000. Despite this, he'd controlled their shared accounts, made financial decisions, positioned himself as the breadwinner through sheer audacity. Debt. $23,000 in credit card debt, accumulated primarily through James's affair-related spending. Elena was arguing that he should assume full responsibility for these charges. Catherine thought it was a strong argument. Child support. Based on New York State calculations and James's income, he'd owe approximately $1,600 monthly until Alexander turned 18. Elena didn't need the money, her salary was more than sufficient, but she wanted the principle established. He should pay for his child. One thing concerns me, Catherine said, leaning back in her chair. Morrison filed a motion last week arguing that your decision to exclude James from the hospital after birth constitutes parental alienation. He's claiming you're deliberately damaging the father-son relationship. Elena felt anger flash hot in her chest. He excluded himself. He chose to be in the Maldives. I know. And we'll argue that. But Elena, I need to be straight with you. Some judges are old-fashioned about these things. They believe children need fathers, even imperfect ones. They might not like that you've been so absolute in your boundaries. What are you saying? I'm saying we might not get everything you want. You'll get primary custody, that's almost certain. But the visitation schedule might be more generous than you'd prefer. And the judge might order counseling or co-parenting classes, which means regular contact with James. Elena looked down at Alexander. He'd grown in 3 weeks, already more alert, more present. His eyes tracked movement now. He recognized her voice, calmed when she held him. At night, when he cried, she was the one who woke. Every feeding, every diaper change, every moment of his short life, she'd been there,